What's up, everybody? On today's video, we're going to talk about how 55 and plus communities are destroying Florida. A lot of my personal friends are of the elderly class, but we have to make a distinction right now between old people and elderly people. Elderly people are nice, respectable folks. On this video, we're going to be talking about old people, not elderly people. So if the shoe fits, then wear it. And if it doesn't fit, then it shouldn't offend you. I have no problem with elderly people who have money coming to Florida to retire. I'm not talking about the elderly people that retire in Florida to live a normal life dressed up like Darth Vader and begging at our intersections. Today we're talking about something more sinister. We're talking about people from other states who have no cultural acquaintances to Florida or even family ties. They're just dumped here from other states. They're on a limited income and they end up in these 55 and older only communities and become a huge burden to the rest of society because one, they don't have enough money to be in Florida, and two, they don't know anybody to come change their diapers for them. Most respectable old people have children, grandchildren, and family and friends who will gladly help them through their elderly stage of life wherever the crap they're from. Or if they're a nobody piece of crap who didn't make any friendships and their family doesn't care about them, they just ship them to Florida so it can be our problem. Florida is not a landfill for old people, and on today's video I'm going to explain to you guys how harmful this practice is and why communities in Florida should stop catering to these particular types of old people. And again, there's nothing wrong with somebody elderly who has acquired wealth and income retiring in Florida to live out their best years in one of the best places to retire. That's not what this video is about. I'm talking about how Florida is a dumping ground for people who have no money, nobody to take care of them, people in elderly age, and then they become a burden to everybody else in society. Take Citrus County, Florida. This county is known for affordable retirement. Their overdose rate is higher than the murder rate in Detroit, with an overdose rate of over 80 per 100,000. Why does a county with nothing but elderly people from other states have just a high overdose rate? Well, it's fairly simple to understand. These folks get a lot of medical supplies and they barter these supplies with young people either for money because they don't have enough to live in Florida, but they do get a substantial amount of benefits along the lines of medicines. And then they barter these with other people for getting their lawn mowed, for getting their gutters cleaned, their house pressure washed, or if they're perverted old piece of craps, which a lot of them are. In fact, there's even a pervert park, which we're going to talk about at the end of the video. They barter their capsules and their bottles and their syrups to young people to get services or other activities done. At the end of the day, Marion County, Citrus County, Highlands County, Pinellas counties, all these counties that have a large population of these retirement homes, 55 and older communities, particularly mobile home parks, which are only allowed for them, use their medical supply to barter for services or money, and then they end up poisoning the youth in the community. And let me tell you, if you are a person that has children, you do not want to move to one of these communities in Florida that are predominantly elderly and put your young children there. These people are predatory, extortionary, and they're going to use their massive supply of government-issued RX to ensure that they can barter with your children for anything they want. And that is why when you look at the CDC map of overdose rates per county, you'll notice that the counties with the most concentrations of elderly people also have the most OD rates. But they're not just poisoning your community, they're also crowding our services. Take emergency responses. Our entire system of emergency responses here in Florida is overwhelmed with two categories. One is car accidents and people falling and slipping, which is 80% these types of elderly people. Or should I say old, because most elderly people have people around them, their family members, who can help them when they have one of these situations. It's the ones that get shipped over here, don't have any type of acquaintance to the state of Florida. They don't know anybody, who are likely to hurt, slip, fall, and end up overcrowding our emergency response systems. That is why when you go to Florida, you see ambulances everywhere. Number two is the ODs. And where are all these ODs happening? In areas adjacent to large populations of elderly people. Elderly, that's old and elderly is elderly people. All right, you get it? Elderly, old, elderly, three different words. These communities are completely toxic. They're destroying the fiber of Florida. And to make it even worse, many communities will only cater to 55 and older. The vast majority of these 55 and older communities are a complete scam. They have to pay lot rent, which is sometimes as much as $1,400 a month, which is just short of a mortgage payment. But they don't actually own these pieces of land. They rent them, and the mobile homes have to be purchased. Sometimes they're paying exactly what the mobile home is worth, as much as $140,000 for the mobile home that's on a piece of land that they're never going to own. And many communities, year after year, will uprise the price by $50. That means if your family member gets to live into the 90s, they'll get up to $1,600, $1,700 a month. Take communities like Landmark, Naples. Every year they are there, the price goes up by $50. So if they're up there for 10 years, the price will go up $500. The price only comes back down when somebody else starts a new lease on that lot, namely when those people pass away. It's practically a scam that depletes these people of all their net worth before they pass away, and it's not transferable to the next generation, namely their children and grandchildren, who, if they had bought real estate, it would have appreciated or at least maintained its value, and that net worth wouldn't have been lost. In other words, these 55 and older communities are nothing more than scams, and they don't really care about the well-being of these people that are renting these homes. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying for a second. These 55 and older communities are not targeted to help the elderly get affordable housing. It is a scam that makes sure that all their net worth is depleted before they pass away. There are beachside condos and communities that are 55 and older, but now that you're dealing with a little bit more money, you're dealing with more of a service that somebody's paying to be in a community of people of their own age. That is different. I'm mostly talking on this video about the lower income bracket of this situation. That is where the people that are moving here are being scammed, and the communities that these parks are in are being poisoned and destroyed, and the EMS service is overcrowded. It puts a huge strain on the communities of Florida to have to take care of these people that don't have a lot of money, don't have anyone to care for them, and they have a lot of necessity. This also takes most of the affordable housing in the state of Florida and allows it specifically for this group, which means that people under 55 can't access affordable housing options. This is not normal or healthy, and it's not just our emergency responders who are overwhelmed by this particular group of people and their activities, leading to car accidents, overdoses, and redundantly large amounts of slip and fall assistance calls. Regular community organizations have also had enough. They're not able to offer help to people because you have now a huge volume of people who need help and are only coming here to look out for their own interest. Over the years, while living in Florida, I've been part of many organizations and community events, like pigeon racing clubs, for example. And I remember when I lived in Naples at one time, on one weekend, there was 3 different funerals. And I was like, I'm not going to go to 3 different funerals for my community events or my organizations. This is ridiculous. And this is exactly what happens when you live in Florida. It's like most people in America are going to a baby shower every other month. Here in Florida, you're getting invited to a funeral twice a month, and you start to realize that you're living in a place where these people come here and they're at a stage in life where they're offering absolutely nothing but taking a whole lot. And that's okay back home wherever they're from because they're a smaller percentage of the community. But when you turn a community like Bradenton, Florida, where 30 or 40% of the people out here are needy people that are elderly and need everything and can't do anything for themselves, it puts a huge burden on our society. I remember walking into a bathroom in Sebring, Florida, and there was a person waiting at the bathroom stall for some young person to come help them pull their pants up, zip their zippers, and help them finish using the bathroom. And you can do that once in a while as a human being. It's not that you don't have emotions for other people. The problem is that these elderly people, if we could call them that, are systematically abusing the population of Florida by imposing their necessities onto society in a huge volume, which in most places in America, it's at a smaller percentage of the population, so it's bearable. But if you live in Florida, you start to realize that this is a huge number of people that are coming here with all types of needs and necessities. A lot of times they do have money, but they're playing the, oh, I'm poor and elderly part. So then you have people who abuse that system for their personal gain. Take this elderly woman that I used to help. She lived a few communities over. I ran into her and I started helping her because she was elderly and needed a lot of things. She would always complain about how she didn't have enough money, how she couldn't afford things, how life was unaffordable. Well, it turns out later on, after many years of helping this person, this lady was actually loaded. She was getting widowers benefits and military benefits and all types of these benefits that came into the thousands of thousands every month. And it was nothing more than a display of pretending like she needed help so that she could further abuse the people around her. And this is a very common tactic that these older people use. They pretend like they're elderly and they need help and they don't have money and they're on a fixed income when really they're freaking loaded looking for people to exploit. And I have been there many times because the more kind-hearted you are of a person, the more likely you are to get exploited by people like this who are actually loaded with money, and even in their elderly age, knowing that they're going to pass away and not be able to spend all this money, they're still trying to exploit people because that's what they've done their whole lives. Where I live now in Bradenton, Florida, we have the largest mobile home market in the state of Florida. Could you imagine what would have happened if Bradenton, Florida had got hit by Hurricane Ian? It was predicted to hit here, but it went further south into the Fort Myers area. Could you just imagine what a catastrophe it would have been if Hurricane Ian had landed in Bradenton, where there are thousands and thousands of mobile homes, mostly inhabited by people in advanced age with limited income? Florida is a natural disaster prone state, and having thousands of people here with many health complications, limited resources, living in beachside mobile home communities is a huge recipe for a massive disaster. And what it's all going to come down to is a huge humanitarian crisis that we, the people of Southwest Florida, are stuck with when it happens. We have our own parents and grandparents to help. I can't go help a bunch of other people's grandparents because they're up in Wisconsin or Michigan playing skee ball. And half the time they're loaded, they can afford to take care of themselves, but they're naturally born stingy piece of craps who would rather wait to exploit the system than to use their own monetary resources to help themselves. Quite literally remember many years back after Hurricane Irma, somebody that I know that is worth into the millions stood in a line for 4 hours to get a free box of water. Free box of water which could have gone to somebody who really needed it during that event. They could have just walked across the street to a gas station and bought it. Even though they had millions of dollars, they're systematically accustomed to exploiting the system. So instead of paying for their own water, they decided to get in line and take the water that could have gone to a family that actually needed it during that time. These 55 and older communities are masked up as a way to help the elderly. The only person who's being helped is the people that own these communities that are charging exorbitant amounts of lot rent for a piece of land. They don't own the mobile homes. They don't have to maintain the buildings. They don't have to do anything. They just charge lot rent for a piece of land. If they really cared about these elderly people, then they wouldn't be charging $1,400 for a piece of land to park a mobile home. So they play it off on our community as, oh, these 55 and older communities are to help the elderly obtain affordable housing. No, it's to help these people that own these communities to load their pockets. And in the meantime, the rest of us, the local people, are stuck with an overcrowded EMS service because of all the attention they need and all the problems that they cause indirectly by bartering their medicine to our children and our families. One single bottle of this stuff can go for $2,400 on the streets, and that's hand-to-hand price. That's not breaking it down. They're poisoning our communities. They're still getting exploited because at the end of the day, they don't get to own or keep none of this stuff. They're just milking these people's networks away. It also fragments the real estate market into different sections where sometimes there's a crunch in one section of the real estate market, but there's availability in another or vice versa. And it takes the real estate market of Florida and it fragments it even further, which means even though we have available real estate units, regular working class people can't find a place to live. And that doesn't include the whole snowbird category, but at least the snowbirds aren't poisoning our community. That's not as harmful to the state of Florida as these 55 and older communities. At least the snowbirds contribute in some type of way. But now you have snowbird units that are empty. You have 55 and older that are only accessible to some people. It just further fragments our real estate market. Most places in the United States don't have this problem. It might be 3 or 2% of the real estate market that's fragmented and just pretty much inaccessible. But when you look at the state of Florida, some places it's 30 or 40% of the real estate market. Even if it's only 15%, it's still too much. At the end of the day, it's only a small percentage of properties that actually hit the market when people need to buy something. I'm not talking about an inconvenience. I'm talking about car accidents leads to fatalities. I'm talking about overdose rates. That is fatalities. These old people are literally killing us. And then there's the legislative aspect of it where Florida has laws where if somebody's over 65 and older, you can't even put your pan on them because they're protected. On top of that, many of the court systems are lenient towards them. It means if they're committing any type of vehicular homicide, if they're running away from their nursing homes, causing a car accident and whacking people, they're not really liable or responsible for it. So now you have this huge criminal, destructive element of the population that has complete immunity to destroy the youth of Florida, dang it. Oh. Woo! Yeah, doggy, that Tennessee shine is something else. Like I was saying, old piece of crap Canadians coming out here messing up everything with their stupid driving down the road, dang tricycles and golf carts everywhere, polluting the red tide. Anyway, what's causing the red tide is the leaching from all these old people when they...
Honey, I think you've had enough video recorded for the day. Why don't you go take a bike ride?
I don't need a bike. There's old people out there. They're going to run me over.
Why don't you take a nap on the couch at least?
No, I'm fine. I'm just going to finish this video. Why don't you go back in there and study your real estate course?
Get on that couch. Hey, this is some organic water from Whole Foods. It's from Hawaii with electrolytes. You should probably drink that.
I'll drink that shine down there.
No, the water.
I don't want to drink this water.
I'm going to pour that shine out in the sink.
No, let's drink this water. I don't want this. Get this Hawaiian.
You drink the water.
I don't want this water.
Or else someone dump it out in the sink. There, that should help keep you calm, at least for a little while. Put some electrolytes in you and see if you can revive.
I used to live in North Naples, and there's a place called Four Seasons. We're heading north on US 41, and this red car, it was one of those PT Cruisers, I think it was, pulls a U-turn into oncoming traffic out of this Four Seasons. A beautiful resort type, elderly place. But somehow this lady managed to have somebody bring her a car. She wasn't supposed to have a car because she was like in her upper 80s or 90s. She got out, got in her car, and drove on the US 41. She didn't make it a block away, pulled a U turn onto oncoming traffic. We're heading southbound as she pulls into oncoming traffic, head on collision. Three cars would have been involved, only one was unable to miss this lady. It would have been three cars easily, but the one car, and it was just the elderly person who was lost. The young lady survived, but at the end of the day, just goes to show how dangerous having all these people around, nobody to watch them, just all over Florida on medications, or just a bunch of old people everywhere that are out of control. Hey man, keep these old people in your home state where they belong. You guys take, like, why we guys got to dump off all these old people here for us? And why are we as Floridians catering to this madness? We should be putting an end to this madness and help Florida be like a normal state. But every day, the more and more legislature is aimed at attracting these people to come over here with their stupid ideologies and their madness, and it's destroying life for the regular people of Florida. And what do you think? As a Floridian, do you think this is out of control? What can be done to get rid of these old people? It's like everything in Florida is done to cater to these people. Take Topgolf in Fort Myers. Finally, the young people in Fort Myers get something, right? The Topgolf in Fort Myers, this is a huge thing for the youth. There's nothing to do in Lehigh Acres. You have 200,000 people in the Lehigh area's triangle area, back towards Fort Myers, possibly a few 100,000 more, and there's not anything to do in this whole area. The only thing everybody was excited about was the Topgolf. Well, guess what the old people said? The lights from Topgolf are blinding us as we're on 75 and we can't see anything. These old people were trying to get them to close the Topgolf because they said the lights were too bright from 75 and they couldn't see anything. And I want to tell you, there's Topgolfs all over America. Communities love these things, and they're all very bright. Out of the hundreds of locations across America, the only place where they've tried to shut down the business after they spent millions in investments into our community is right here in Southwest Florida, because the old people couldn't see on 75. Let me ask you something. If they couldn't see on 75, I think what Florida really needs to start doing is giving these people driver's license tests at a certain age. And if they're not able to drive, then hey, dude, take their licenses away. Because really the problem isn't us having a golf course for young people. It's you not being able to seek. But of course, the law always takes their side, because for ages, Florida's been catering to these people. But Florida's a changing place. Florida is no longer dependent on old people coming here to die. A lot of young people want to live in Florida for the weather, the beaches, what's left of the beaches after the red tide. And even though the state of Florida doesn't offer a lot of opportunity for young people because it's catering to these old farts, the young people create their own opportunities. You know, we're in a world past COVID. Everything's virtual. People are working from home. People want to live in Florida. Young people with families and kids. People are retiring earlier than ever, and they're coming to Florida. Every single day I read emails of people that are moving to Florida with their families, and they can't find adequate communities. They're moving to places like Punta Gorda, like the predator capital of the world. But there's nothing for children and families, and the few things that we have, the law is getting rid of it. I remember like when I was in Naples maybe 15 years ago, the places you were allowed to go into in the Everglades, now it's only like 10% of it's left where you could drive cars and do stuff. And now, like, every day it's more and more restrictions, to the point where, like, families can't do anything in Florida. Like, every single thing that families and people can do, they ban it. It's like they don't even want a freaking Topgolf. Everything that they can do to make Florida uninhabitable for family and children's, they keep systematically getting rid of everything we need. But what do they cater to? In Pinellas County, Florida, you have a place called Pervert Park. And as the name implies, is a mobile home park for registered offenders. Now, what reasonable community would allow for this to take place within their urban core? That's Pinellas County's for you. Me and my wife were eating at this Waffle House, and we encountered some very creepy, strange people. And I asked the waitress, why are these people so creepy? She said, oh, because there's a park across the street for perverts. It's called Pervert Parks. Make sure your kids don't go nowhere near that. Why is Florida catering to this garbage? Vast majority of them are walking or biking around or pushing a stroller around like Herbert from Family Guy because they don't even have driver's licenses. They don't have anything. They just live in this park called Pervert Park. And this is in the middle of Pinellas County. I understand these people have to live somewhere. Why not put them out in Kansas, in the middle of a cornfield somewhere? Why do they got to dump this garbage here in Florida? And they act friendly. They act so friendly. You drive your car through there, they're all waving at you. Every last one of them is a registered offender. Why would you cater to this type of community? Like, you literally have communities like this all throughout Florida. They have to live somewhere. I get that. But why in Florida, in the urban core, near schools and stuff? Like, how does the state of Florida have communities for these people, but then people that are young and need a place to live because they're working and can't afford it don't have it? Welcome to the state of Florida, where we have 55 and older communities for registered offenders so they can live near schools and stuff and whatever they need. And then the rest of us can't even get affordable, decent housing. And that's the problem with Florida. It's really messed up, the people they're catering to. But then the people that are actually from here, we're kind of stuck with a pervert park next to our schools or something. Keep your kids and family away from a place called Charlotte County, Florida. Whether it's Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, just look at the news reports. So graphic that I can't even talk about on our channel. But just look at the news reports that are coming out of these communities, from teachers to just random people. People take their kids to the store and some weird, like crazy crap. Like, people want to come to Florida with their families and kids and have a normal life. And we can't because there's so many old people here that are poisoning or just outright predatory towards our families that we can't even live in peace. I just had 15 of my family members jump over here illegally, and they were telling me their neighbors are creepy as crap, man. Like, you can't even come over here illegally anymore because these dang old people are being creepy. Then there's efforts to get rid of the hardworking people that come over here to cut these lawns and trim these palm trees. It's Juan and his familia. That's really what's destroying Florida. I don't see these old people trimming these palm trees down there. I can see a guy hanging off a palm tree outside. Let me go see if it's a Mexican or if it's an old guy. Hey, let me go out here. Let me see. Hey, are you a Mexican or are you an old guy? Ah, pues échale gana, güey. Okay, no, yeah, that's a Mexican out there cutting that palm tree. It's not an elderly pervert. It's a Mexican. So, they're out there cutting my palm tree. I don't see any old people coming out here cutting these palm trees.
Okay, you are done. How do I turn this thing off?
Turn what? The microphone?
Yeah.
No, I'm not done yet.
Oh, you are done.
No,
Get yourself on that couch.
I'm still recording that.
No, get yourself on the couch. I'm gonna figure out how to turn it off.
Ow.